In a world that glorifies constant hustle, loud opinions, and flashy displays of dominance, the Stoic path offers something radically different: clarity through emotional control. Imagine standing in a storm of chaos, arguments flaring, stress piling up, uncertainty all around, and instead of getting swept up in it, you're calm. You're grounded. That's not weakness. That's power. The first Stoic principle, mastering your emotions, isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about choosing how you respond. Most people let anger, anxiety, or ego drive their actions. But the Stoic man, he pauses, he breathes, he calculates, and in that space between reaction and response, he reclaims control over his life. When everyone else is panicking, he's the one people turn to, the calm in the storm, the voice of reason. This level of control doesn't just earn respect, it earns influence. It separates the man who acts from the man who merely reacts. And it's not just about leadership or career success, it's about your relationships, your inner peace, your ability to navigate life without being a slave to impulse. Emotional mastery is the foundation of true confidence, the kind that can't be shaken by criticism or failure. In a society addicted to instant gratification, this is your edge, this is your armor. So next time you feel your emotions flaring up, remember, your power lies in your response, not your reaction. Control yourself, and you control the outcome. That's how Stoic men outsmart the rest. Not with noise, but with silence, strength, and unwavering self-command. Most men today are exhausted, not from action, but from worry. Worrying about the future, about what others think, about problems that aren't even theirs to solve. But the Stoics had a radical solution, one that can change your life the moment you apply it. Focus only on what you can control. It's liberating. Imagine stripping away the mental clutter, the opinions, the fear of judgment, and realizing that you only need to master yourself. That's where peace begins. While others waste energy trying to bend the world to their will, the Stoic focuses inward. He doesn't obsess over politics, gossip, or outcomes he can't influence. He works, he sharpens, he evolves. Because he knows that trying to control the uncontrollable is like trying to hold water in your fist. It only leaves you frustrated and empty. Letting go isn't weakness, it's power. It means you're no longer tossed around by every wave of chaos. You become anchored, sharp, and calm. Picture two men in the same storm. One panics over everything outside his grasp. The other focuses on steering the ship. Who survives? Who thrives? That's the Stoic. When you reclaim your focus, you become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. So the next time anxiety creeps in, stop and ask, is this mine to control? If the answer is no, let it go, because your energy is too valuable to waste on what you can't change. Focus it instead on becoming unshakable. That's how you rise. That's how you lead. That's how you win. Most people run from discomfort like it's the enemy. But what if I told you that discomfort is where the transformation lives? The Stoics knew this well. They embraced discomfort not because they were masochists, but because they understood a powerful truth. Growth never happens in comfort. Whether it's waking up early to train your body, confronting a hard truth about yourself, or making a bold move in your career, discomfort is the signal that you're on the edge of evolution. While others play it safe, stuck in soft routines, the Stoic man leans in. He doesn't fear the cold shower, the missed meal, the awkward silence, because he knows those moments forge resilience. And in a world obsessed with instant pleasure, that kind of discipline is rare, and damn powerful. Think about it. Every time you choose discomfort over convenience, you prove to yourself that you're in charge, not your impulses. That's where confidence comes from. Not from faking it, but from facing it. Every hard thing you overcome rewires your brain to believe, I can handle more. That belief? It's unstoppable. So stop chasing comfort. It's a trap that keeps men weak. Instead, chase challenge. Chase the sweat, the silence, the uncertainty. Because inside of those moments is the man you were meant to become. You want strength, purpose, peace? It starts with a little bit of pain. Train your mind to love the discomfort, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. That's how warriors are made. That's how legends are born. In a world where loud mouths often get the spotlight, humility has become a rare superpower. But true confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops, comes from knowing who you are, even when no one's watching. The Stoic man doesn't brag. He doesn't beg for applause. He doesn't need to prove his worth with flashy titles or empty noise. Why? Because his confidence is rooted in reality, not ego. He walks with quiet strength, grounded in self-awareness, knowing both his power and his limits. And that balance, that blend of humility and confidence, that's magnetic. That's leadership. Humility isn't about shrinking yourself or pretending you're less. It's about standing tall without stepping on anyone else. It's about doing the work and letting the results speak. It's knowing when to listen, when to speak, and when to step back so others can shine too. People feel that. They trust it. They're drawn to it. And in a society obsessed with self-promotion, being the man who doesn't need the spotlight makes you unforgettable. This kind of character doesn't just make you successful, it makes you respected. Because people will always remember the one who stayed grounded, who moved with purpose, who let his actions do the talking. So drop the need to impress. Focus instead on being a man of substance. Speak when it matters. Lead with integrity. And let the world catch up to your quiet, undeniable presence. That's not weakness. That's real power. In moments of pressure, most people crumble. They react, quickly, emotionally, and often regretfully. But the Stoic man doesn't let his emotions hijack his decisions. He breathes. He pauses. And in that pause, he finds clarity. He's not cold or detached. He simply chooses not to let temporary emotions dictate permanent consequences. That's not easy. It takes strength to stay calm when everything inside you screams to lash out. It takes wisdom to step back, reflect, and act with intention. But in that space between impulse and action lies power, real power. Using logic over emotion doesn't mean shutting your heart down. It means respecting your emotions, listening to them, but refusing to be ruled by them. It means asking, what's the right move here, rather than, what feels good right now? That shift alone separates men who drift through life from those who lead it. It keeps you from burning bridges in anger, from chasing illusions in lust, from folding under pressure. It puts you back in the driver's seat. Imagine how different your life could look if, in every critical moment, you responded instead of reacted. If your decisions were guided by reason, not rage. That's the Stoic edge. It sharpens you, grounds you, and earns you respect in a world full of chaos. The man who chooses logic when others lose their heads, he becomes the one others trust, follow, and admire. He becomes the calm in the storm. And that's a presence people never forget. In a world that moves at the speed of instant gratification, where quick wins and faster results dominate our every thought, practicing patience can feel like going against the current. But that's exactly why it's powerful. Deliberate patience, true grounded patience, isn't passive. It's a choice. It's strength. It's a quiet defiance against the chaos that tells us we need everything now. The Stoic man doesn't rush. He knows that anything meaningful, success, character, wisdom, takes time to build. He plants seeds with intention and trusts the process, knowing full well that the fruits will come in their season. When others react impulsively, chase shortcuts, or break under pressure, the patient man stands firm. He watches, he waits, and when the moment is right, he acts. And because he's not in a hurry, his actions are precise, powerful, and lasting. That kind of patience doesn't just set you apart, it makes you unshakable. It's what allows you to turn tension into strength, setbacks into strategy, and uncertainty into clarity. Think about how many mistakes could be avoided, how many conflicts diffused, if you simply paused. If you chose timing over reaction. The Stoic understands that rushing often leads to ruin, but waiting with purpose builds legacy. And in a world full of noise, the man who waits wisely commands attention without ever raising his voice. That's the power of patience, not in doing nothing, but in knowing when to do something. And when that moment comes, it's yours to own completely. In a world overflowing with empty words and hollow promises, leading by example has become a rare and powerful act. The Stoic man doesn't need to shout to be heard. His presence speaks volumes. He doesn't preach values, he lives them. His consistency, his discipline, his calm in the face of chaos, these are the quiet flames that light the way for others. While many try to impress through speeches, social media posts, or boasting about their ambitions, he simply shows up, does the work, and lets the results speak for themselves. There's something magnetic about that kind of man. He's the one others naturally turn to in times of stress, not because he demands attention, but because he earns respect, day in and day out. When others crumble under pressure, he remains steady. When situations grow tense, he brings clarity. His leadership isn't loud, it's steady, grounded, and deeply felt. And that's what makes it real. But this kind of leadership requires courage. It requires integrity. It means doing the right thing when no one's watching, and staying committed when no one applauds. It's not about being perfect. It's about being accountable. About holding yourself to a higher standard, not for praise, but because it aligns with who you are. The Stoic leader doesn't try to change people with words. He influences them by showing what's possible, and in doing so, he elevates everyone around him. In a world that talks too much and listens too little, he lives the message. And that's what makes all the difference. Life is full of obstacles, some expected, many not. Most people freeze at the first sign of difficulty, treating challenges as dead ends. But the Stoic sees something different. To him, every obstacle is not a wall, but a doorway, an opportunity disguised as resistance. As Marcus Aurelius said, what stands in the way becomes the way. That's not just poetic. It's a mindset that transforms lives. Where others see failure, the Stoic sees fuel. Where others see rejection, he sees redirection. He doesn't curse the storm. He becomes stronger because of it. Think about how powerful that is. Imagine turning every setback into a stepping stone. Lost your job? Use it to pivot to something better. Heartbroken? Learn, heal, and come back wiser. Delayed? Frustrated? Good. Now you get to practice patience, resilience, clarity. The world throws punches, but the Stoic doesn't flinch. He leans in. There's something deeply liberating about that. It's not that life becomes easier. It's that you become unbreakable. Challenges don't shrink, but your strength grows. This mindset doesn't just help you survive hardship. It gives your life meaning. You stop fearing adversity and start welcoming it. That's where your edge is. That's how you rise while others fall apart. And when people around you see that you don't fold when things get tough, they take notice. They admire your calm, your clarity, your strength. Not because you're lucky, but because you've trained your mind to turn every obstacle into your path forward. That's Stoicism. That's power. That's the way. In a world addicted to likes, praise, and the constant hum of external validation, choosing to prioritize inner peace is nothing short of revolutionary. Most people are caught in an endless loop, chasing approval, shaping their identity around what others think, and defining their worth by metrics they can't control. But the Stoic? He breaks free. He looks inward. He finds strength not in applause, but in alignment with his values, his purpose, his truth. There's a quiet power in that. Imagine walking through life untouched by judgment, unshaken by criticism, and unbothered by trends. That's not apathy, it's liberation. When you stop needing others to tell you who you are, you finally get to be who you are. You act from purpose, not pressure. You speak from truth, not from a need to impress. And suddenly, your presence begins to carry more weight. You become grounded, centered, someone others admire but can't quite figure out. This kind of peace isn't given. It's earned through reflection, discipline, and the courage to say, I don't need your approval to know my worth. And what's incredible is how this shift changes everything. Your relationships become more authentic, your decisions more intentional, and your confidence unshakable. Not the loud, performative kind, but the deep, steady kind that makes people feel your presence. The Stoic path doesn't just lead to clarity, it leads to freedom. And in a world that's constantly trying to shape you, staying true to yourself is the most powerful rebellion there is. In a society obsessed with external achievement, noise, and nonstop motion, the act of introspection, of looking within, has become almost radical. But for the Stoic, introspection is not just a habit, it's a way of life. It's the quiet mirror we hold up at the end of each day, asking not what the world thinks of us, but whether we lived in alignment with our deepest values. And that's where true transformation begins, not in the chaos outside, but in the stillness within. Those who speak less often do so not because they have nothing to say, but because they've taken the time to understand themselves. They've faced their own fears, desires, and insecurities head-on, not to bury them, but to master them. They ask hard questions. Was I kind today? Did I act out of principle or impulse? What can I do better tomorrow? And in those honest answers lies the seed of real, lasting growth. This kind of inner work takes courage. It means sitting with your flaws without judgment, celebrating your progress without pride, and never losing sight of who you want to become. But the reward? Clarity, peace, power. The kind of grounded presence that draws others in, not because you're trying to impress them, but because your self-awareness speaks louder than words ever could. In a world focused on appearances, introspection offers something deeper. Substance. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. And when you know who you are, you stop chasing validation and start living with purpose. That's what makes the silent powerful. That's what makes the Stoic unshakable. In a world where everyone's trying to be louder, flashier, and more dominant, the true edge doesn't come from shouting to be seen. It comes from mastering yourself. That's the core of Stoic wisdom. You don't need to out-talk or out-hustle others to outsmart them. Instead, you quietly become the man who remains calm in chaos, thoughtful in conflict, and strong in discomfort. That's real power, and it's rare. The most impactful men aren't always the loudest in the room. They're the ones who feel deeply but act deliberately, who don't let emotions hijack their judgment. They pause, reflect, respond with intention. And because of that, they make better choices. In business, love, and life, they stay grounded while others spiral. That's not just smart, it's unshakably wise, but it goes deeper. Outsmarting everyone else isn't about playing games. It's about walking your own path with purpose, choosing growth over comfort, truth over approval, and discipline over distraction. It's about cultivating inner peace so solid that outside opinions can't shake you. That kind of mindset? It doesn't just help you win. It helps you build a life that's truly your own. So ask yourself, are you chasing validation or building strength? Are you reacting or responding? Are you ruled by impulse or guided by clarity? The Stoic path isn't easy, but it's transformative. Because when you stop trying to control the world and start mastering yourself, you don't just rise above the noise, you become the signal. The most powerful lesson woven throughout this Stoic journey is simple, yet transformative. True mastery begins within. In a world constantly demanding reaction, through noise, pressure, and endless distractions, your greatest strength lies in restraint, clarity, and self-awareness. Life isn't about controlling everything around you. It's about mastering how you respond. Emotional control, patience, humility, and the ability to find peace within. These are not just admirable traits, they're tools for lasting resilience. And here's the truth most people miss. Men who live with purpose, who choose depth over noise, don't need to prove themselves. They become undeniable. That quiet strength isn't weakness. It's what earns real respect. As you move through relationships, career shifts, or daily challenges, remember, you don't need to chase approval, out-talk the competition, or fear discomfort. You only need to stay grounded in who you are. The Stoic path doesn't promise ease, it promises clarity. It calls for you to be deliberate with your time, intentional with your actions, and fearless in facing yourself. Because in the end, the man who can remain steady in a storm isn't just stronger, he becomes a light for others. That's the kind of man worth becoming.